Namaste and welcome to Indian Diplomacy, a show about India's relations with key countries around the world, India's interactions, India's engagements, and also the outcome of these relations and how they shape mutual benefit for both sides, and also the broader regions in which India and the partner country exist. This show is about how India is building goodwill around the world, how it's acquiring greater stature, importance, and relevance in the world. In this episode, viewers, we are taking you to Europe, to the United Kingdom. We are looking at a country with which India has comprehensive strategic partnership. The UK and India go back a long way, from colonial times or even pre-colonial times. There's been exchanges between the two sides, and after independence in the post-colonial period, India remained part of the Commonwealth, and the historical legacy is truly enormous. Words cannot suffice. The fact that we are doing this show in English language itself is a reminder of this umbilical link between India and the United Kingdom. But more interesting things have happened in recent times. It's become a comprehensive strategic partnership, and increasingly we are looking at new avenues for cooperation. So to discuss all these aspects of the India-UK special relationship, I'm privileged to introduce you viewers to our guest in the studio, Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee. Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee was India's ambassador to the Netherlands and was also joint secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, handling Europe, which included the UK at the time, ever since the UK has come out of Europe after what is called Brexit. But nonetheless, Ambassador Mukherjee has seen it all, and thank you, Ambassador, for being with us on this show and for sharing your insights.
It's a pleasure, and it is indeed very relevant to discuss United Kingdom, because we are forging a whole new relationship with the UK post-Brexit. Post-Brexit, the UK can also focus on India with its full force bilaterally, without having to take the European Union with them. Not that that was an issue, but still. And for us too, and this is particularly important with regard to the economic partnership, where we are hoping that a free trade agreement will emerge. Politically, we've had a very strong strategic partnership for a long time. Yeah. In fact, we are one of the few countries that have been able to build up with our ex-colonial power a relationship that is the envy of many.
Yeah.
And the UK, let us not forget, was one of the first countries, P5 countries, to support our candidature in the Security Council. Today, London feels almost like an Indian city, because there's so much of Indian investment, Indian restaurants.
Our diaspora, ma'am,
our diaspora,
1.5 million people. It's the largest ethnic minority in the UK.
And a diaspora that is seamlessly contributing to the prosperity of the United Kingdom. A diaspora that has no problems in being British or embracing British culture, which is a contrast to many other diasporas which have problems in adjusting. On the contrary, we have brought in FDI flows to our ex-colonial power, it's amazing. It's a miracle what India and UK are achieving together in India and UK.
Viewers, Ambassador Mukherjee just mentioned the miracle. It's unimaginable that a former colonial power is India is the second largest investor in the UK today after the United States. Just imagine, Indian outward investment is second only to the US. I mean, that just shows how much we have embraced this relationship magnanimously after the embers of the empire ended, how far we have come. And the diaspora, ma'am, I would like you to dwell on it a little bit more. They are in business, they are in government, in politics. I mean, everyone knows Preeti Patel and Rishi Sunak, and they have made it to the highest levels of the current conservative government in the UK. They are very active in the arts and culture. Truly, our diaspora in the UK, probably the one after the US, is the most dynamic in the whole world.
Absolutely. In fact, 687 companies, if I'm not mistaken, Indian companies, and many Indian companies were told by some of UK's pre-EU, pre-Brexit days partners to leave London and move to mainland Europe. They did not do so because they have deep ties in UK, in its economy, and actually their decision to stay put was vindicated by the fact that they have been able to do extremely well post Brexit. So actually Brexit, the only advantage for Brexit, as I said earlier, was that the two sides can focus on each other's strengths and bring out a FTA, which unfortunately India has not yet been able to do with the European Union, a BTIA.
That's a bigger one with the whole EU.
That's a much
but
bigger one.
But with the UK now we are proceeding.
But with the UK we are proceeding. We've had the first round of talks. They went off very well. It was partly in London, partly virtual, where they were able to identify the core areas. And an FTA is much easier than a BTIA because an FTA is a classic free trade agreement, whereas a BTIA also brings in investment. But you were talking about the diaspora. I'd like to add that when I was Joint Secretary Europe West, we set up the first India-UK roundtable, where we had personalities like Lord Swaraj Paul, etc., from the UK side, and equally eminent personalities from our side. The roundtable was able to identify areas of cooperation, diaspora versus diaspora. This was extremely interesting.
So the so viewers, that's the thing. Contact. The 1.5 million strong British Indians, they're the biggest group within the larger category of British Asians. They have really made us proud and have become a living bridge, as the diplomats say, between the two countries. And trade, the way the FTA negotiations are going forward with a lot of focus, it just shows how much the diaspora is able to leverage it, because many of our companies are there and they enable two-way trade. So the investment and trade are also linked. But let's hear from the two sides, the ministers of commerce of India, Piyush Goyal, and also the British Trade Secretary. Let's hear them first on the status quo on this latest move to enhance the relationship by going for a free trade agreement.
Our vibrant countries share a clear-eyed commitment to democracy, to those fundamental freedoms, to multilateralism and a rules-based international order. And we are deeply entwined through our close bonds of friendship, kinship and commerce that are fed by the living bridge of people and ideas between us. So as we recover from the economic impact of the pandemic, we have a unique opportunity to build on these ties, to recalibrate, to refresh, and to reinvigorate our relationship on trade, on defence, on climate, and on health. This is an opportunity that we must seize to steer our partnership with purpose onto the track of mutual prosperity for those decades to come. We aim for this to be a future-facing deal, accelerating the business that we do together in the cutting-edge sectors that are reshaping the global economy. Areas like services and innovation, where Britain and India are already world leaders, and in which we are therefore ideal partners, with many British and Indian businesses working side by side to push the boundaries of technology from fintech to green tech, from automation to AI. Through our commitment to a new and transformational comprehensive strategic partnership and the 2030 roadmap for future UK-India relations, we aim to double trade between our countries by the end of this decade, supporting jobs, businesses and communities in both our countries.
India and the United Kingdom are two dynamic leading economies of the world, are coming together to embark on this next phase of our economic partnership, moving from the enhanced trade partnership which was launched by the two prime ministers in May last year to expanding it to a full-fledged discussion on a free trade agreement, on a comprehensive economic partnership, is truly a very, very important milestone in our engagement between the two countries. We are looking forward to a very multidimensional economic partnership between the two countries, particularly when we both share vibrant democracies, we share rich history and traditional cultural ties over centuries. Our cooperation will extend in areas like tourism, technology, startups, education, climate change, amongst others. We are looking forward to a very strong partnership, a mutually beneficial trade agreement with balanced concessions and market access in a wide range of sectors. Today's discussions have also focused a lot on ensuring that the free trade agreement is accompanied by significant progress in market access issues, which will help expand sectoral cooperation and also remove any trade restrictions beyond tariff restrictions. This will truly generate both direct and indirect jobs in both countries and help people in our quest for greater prosperity. The India-UK FTA will also contribute in integrating value chains or supply chains between the two countries and augment our mutual efforts to strengthen the resilience of supply chains between the two nations.
So viewers, ambitious agenda, we want to double the volume of trade. It used to be around 23 billion pound sterling per annum, and if you're looking at 50 billion pound sterling, that's a significant jump, and the negotiations are on. We are looking at a very pragmatic, as Minister Piyush Goyal was saying, that it should be balanced. The concessions, Ambassador, the thing is, the FTA with the EU is a larger issue, but with the UK, looks like we are on making big progress, and there seems to be a lot of complementarities between the two economies. There's a lot of talk about technology based trade now, and what do you think is the real prospect of this, and especially given that the UK is in many ways desperate to start afresh after Brexit, and I think for them India is the biggest market they can ever imagine, because of China is there, but because of the ideological tussle and the problem with Chinese authoritarian rule and all that, they're probably quite cagey about it. So it looks like the biggest post-Brexit opportunity, one was the US. They were looking for a bilateral with the US, and that I don't know how far they are able to make progress, but I think with India that will be huge. 1.4 billion market, they want more market access, but so do we. So your thoughts on this new project we are embarking on?
You're absolutely right. Both are service economies, that's their strength, and both UK and India want to move away the value chains away from China to other options, and this is something that is shared by the United States and the European Union. Under those circumstances, the possibility today of having an FTA is much higher, because earlier I do recall that one of the issues which held us up was the question of mobility, mode 4 of WTO as we call it, people to people, the ability of both sides to move freely for business, trade, etc. That is now no longer a problem post Brexit, because this is straight between UK and India, and we can always work out business visas, fast track visas. We already have in fact fast track visas. This was one of the obstacles which have been worked out, and what is going in our favor, as you rightly pointed out earlier, was the very heavy Indian investment into UK. So it really is a two-way traffic.
And
in
we
every
create so
way.
many jobs in the UK, ma'am.
Exactly.
Thousands of British jobs are created by Indian companies.
Absolutely. So, and big business is there, medium scale business is there, and now post Brexit there are so many opportunities for the British also to invest in India, in tourism. We are opening up the northeast, Jammu and Kashmir, we are inviting investment. There is so much of investment opportunities all over India now. We are coming out of the pandemic. So I think this is really a time when I just hope that we can wrap it up in the 2 rounds. Normally an FTA takes 6-7 rounds. We've already had one. If you can wrap it up in the next 2 or 3 rounds, then by the end of the year, if you have an FTA, that would be very positive development.
Ambassador, they also talk about an early harvest or an interim deal to give some low-hanging fruits which we can capture sooner.
Yes, well, we tried that with the BTIA also, but it would work with the UK much better. Basically, what it means is that we first reach agreement on those areas on which there is no disagreement. And so you have an FTA in phases. So you first take up those areas on which there is absolutely no disagreement and you launch it immediately. And in the meantime, you continue your discussions and negotiations on the other areas on which need concessions from either side or both sides. It's usually where the concessions are involved that an FTA gets stuck. So this is a much better way of getting it moving by focusing first on the low hanging fruit, as they say, as we say, and then move to the higher hanging fruit, which actually is also essential for the success of the long term success of the FTA. You need both the low hanging and the high hanging fruit.
And Ambassador, also when we talk of investments, we are number 2 in the UK, but the UK is like around number 6 or 7 in the Indian, as an inward in FDI coming into India. So that's where I think Prime Minister Modi and Dr. Jaishankar, our External Affairs Minister, have been emphasizing that we need more investments from their side. So that's clearly an area where I think more work needs to be done.
Much more work needs to be done, and in fact, the whole issue of mobility, business visas, etc., was precisely to ensure that when you have quick movement without any problems, you also are able to create an atmosphere conducive for foreign direct investment in India, in this particular case from the United Kingdom. And FDI flows have increased. We need to have much greater FDI flows from UK.
Absolutely.
And UK is interested because it is moving away. It was fairly China centric about 10 years ago,
right.
But post Brexit it has moved away. You can see that in Indo-Pacific.
We are all talking about the resilient supply chains, and this is linked to diversifying away from China. So clearly for Britain viewers, this is a decisive turn, and I think India means a lot more to them in terms of value add as far as their global Britain, the vision of post Brexit global Britain goes. But it's not all economics. There's a lot of geostrategy and defense also coming into play. And I'd like you to watch, to hear the foreign ministers of the two countries speak about the prospects for defense cooperation. Defense is one area where we are looking at an upgrade, and that's why we are calling it comprehensive strategic partnership. Let's listen in.
We have, I think, clearly convergences. We are trying to see how those convergences develop into more shared interests. If you were to look at the defense side, again, there's a long history we have, but our defense trade hasn't been big in recent years. In fact, what I did share with Foreign Secretary Truss was the thinking in India about defense. The fact that today there's an emphasis in what we call Make in India, and therefore the more collaborative we are, the possibilities of working together are more. Also that we do a lot of global sourcing, so it's important that any offer be competitive. Again, the interest in co-creating is very strong in certain areas. So a lot of what we aspire to lies ahead of us, and our job right now is to make sure that the policies are in place so that the people who actually do things in particular verticals are not obstructed by policy.
Jai's talked about defence. Again, I think there's an opportunity there for us to work closely with India, including Indian production of key pieces of defence equipment that ensure greater security, but also help share technology and IP and technology transfer. So these are all areas where, to be frank, I don't think we've done enough in the past. I don't think we've operated to our maximum potential. And I think a strong India and a strong United Kingdom and a strong partnership between India and the United Kingdom isn't just good for us. I think it's good for the world, because I think the things that we do are positive and make a positive contribution. I think the most important thing, though, is that we shouldn't allow the formats to get in the way of the delivery. And that is the most important thing for me, is that we're really cooperating with India much more closely on defence and security. We're sharing more intelligence, we're working together on cyber, we're working together on technology, we're working together on trade. I know that the Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, is keen to visit India. I'm sure we're going to have more future discussions on this subject, but I think the most important thing is the what about how we get on with it. And Minister Jaishankar talked earlier about the sort of shifting geopolitics of the world. And we are at a huge inflection moment, in my view. The post-Cold War world has now come to a close, and we are entering a new era. And there is a proliferation of different groupings taking place. But I think they all point to the fact that the current architecture isn't working as it should, and we are finding coalitions of the willing and alliances to get things done. And certainly, as the United Kingdom, we see India as an absolutely crucial partner in that, alongside, our other crucial allies.
So viewers, new coalitions of the willing, this is what Liz Truss, the British foreign minister, says. And Dr. Jaishankar, our foreign minister, was also emphasizing the fact that we need to do a lot more in this area, especially geopolitically and in defense. Ambassador Mukherjee, the British recently sent a carrier strike group into the Indian Ocean region. They're saying that they want to reactivate their naval presence in the western end of the Indian Ocean, which is towards the Bahrain and towards the Gulf of Oman. And they are increasingly doing a lot of joint naval drills with Indian Navy, and they do have a so-called tilt towards the Indo-Pacific also. So the defense cooperation and the move towards Indo-Pacific is something we welcome, and that's an area where we would want more partners to come in to be able to counterbalance the hegemonic threat that China poses to our oceanic areas. So your thoughts on this area of cooperation with the UK? Clearly both the foreign ministers were quite candid. They were saying it's a growth area and we need to do more, and this is like a sunrise thing that is up for the future.
Absolutely. I think what both foreign ministers were trying to convey is that there is a strategic shift, and that strategic shift takes into account the priorities of the Indo-Pacific, where UK, the West, Quad have the same perspective. UK is also part of a military alliance in the Indo-Pacific, AUKUS. And we on our part, we greatly welcome the presence of the British Navy. It's a very strong Navy, the joint exercises, and moreover the increasing recognition by the United Kingdom of the threat that China poses to the peace and stability of this very important part of the world, where in fact 70% of the trade of the EU as a whole and UK pass through this very important
sea lanes of communication.
Area. Yeah. So this is a very important area of cooperation, and it is also important, since we are trying to diversify our defense partnerships with nations, that we also are able to diversify with the UK, provided, as External Affairs Minister said, the UK offer us competitive bids. It
and
has to
co-produce with
be
India,
and
because we want
transfer of technology, like we have with other partners, France, etc.
Israel,
France, Israel, slowly United States also. So this is something we can explore, and it is good that the British now recognize that this is a very important component of the strategic partnership, where we hadn't done so much earlier
in the past.
Maybe because they were also part of the EU, but now that this is post-Brexit, a defense partnership between UK and India no longer involves the EU.
Yes.
It's a bilateral partnership, and therefore so much easier to handle and so much easier to organize.
Yeah, so viewers, Britain seems to be freer now to act in some areas now that it's out of the EU, and that is something probably both sides, India and the UK, are trying to capitalize. But Ambassador Mukherjee, your thoughts on, there's been a war in Europe, and there are some differences that have apparently of perception that seem to come between the UK and India on this matter. Even though the long term and the medium term fundamentals are strong, there is some disagreement, it seems. So your thoughts on, we have our view on that the British should come more strongly on our side when we face China here, and they want us to come on to their side when they are facing Russia in Europe. So there are some expectations, probably no relationship is perfect, as we know, that cannot be fulfilled, and I think we can agree to disagree a little bit.
Well, I think the UK Foreign Secretary pointed out very fairly that she hasn't come here to tell us what we should do. The whole issue is that visits like these help our strategic allies to understand the difficulty that India has in facing China alone from 62 onwards in the Himalayas, and the fact that whenever India has faced a threat from China, we have always had to handle it according to our own resources, our armed forces, our support of our people, etc. What is happening in Ukraine, again, there's no real difference in, as you rightly pointed out, it's a difference in perception. India and UK believe in a rule-based order. India and UK believe in the integrity of Ukraine. Our explanation of vote after we abstained clearly indicated that we believe in the sovereignty of Ukraine, and our Prime Minister has conveyed this to President Zelensky not once but at least 3 times. Where we differ is in a kind of a request from the West that we should completely shift our strategic autonomy and partnerships from one very important country that is of great support to us, that has been of great support to us, and move completely into a different alliance. Such shifts take time, such shifts take accommodation, and such shifts are dictated by core national interests which are based on India's history and geography. Just as they are based on UK or Europe's history and geography.
Absolutely.
History and geography dictate those final decisions.
Very much so. So viewers, the thing is, India and the UK have come a long way, but we are actually looking at bigger horizons in trade, in defense, in the Indo-Pacific, in greater geopolitical coordination. The two leaders of the countries have been talking about how democracies must come together and create a rules-based order. So there's a lot happening. India-UK bilateral relationship has much bigger ramifications beyond just the two sides. So that's all we have in this episode of Indian Diplomacy. I want to thank Ambassador Mukherjee for joining us. It's been really enlightening, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And I'll see you again next time with another episode of Indian Diplomacy with another country with whom India is tight. Take care.